at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
At First National Bank in Taylorville, switching banks isn't a hassle. It's easy by real people who care. Find out why they've been first every time for over 70 years by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
WTIM. Good morning, Central Illinois, and welcome to the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. And the show is sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. I'm your host, Reed Kamai, and I'll tell you what, we're getting ready for the start of the football season, and that means the folks at Tommy TV over at Taylorville High School are going to be ramping up their work for the start of the year. They'll be covering the football games, all the home games, I think most of the away games for football this season, as well as plenty of basketball action too. And here to talk about all of that and much more is the teacher and facilitator for Tommy TV, Neil Hohenstein. Neil, welcome back in.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Reed. Good to be back. Getting ready for school. It's here.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Getting ready for school, whether you like it or not.
That's right.
So no, I'm really excited about that and excited to talk about Tommy TV, getting ready for that to start. How's it been going with getting people into the program?
Well, Reed, we had a meeting with a couple of producers, a couple of the students just Sunday, and just trying to get the table set, because once school starts, and the football's starting a little bit earlier this year, but we're doing football, as you mentioned, the home games, the away games, but we're also doing home volleyball. We're going to have a great volleyball team. We're also doing home soccer matches. Yeah, that's right. Right. And they're improving. They've improved over the last couple of years too. So we're doing all of those. And then all of a sudden you look for fall sports and there's 30 different events or so. And then we've got to come in with a group of freshmen or first year students, not all of them freshmen, that have not touched a camera. They don't know about the culture of what we're doing. So we're trying to bring all that in, and then, we're going out and doing shows a week later. So we're getting ready for that now and trying to ramp that up.
Yeah. And then, in terms of like the turnover, like how many like regular, participants in broadcasts have you kind of had to replace?
So the very first year we started, we had 20, and then we've floated mid 40s, and then generally now, we're getting ready to start our 7th year. So we're usually somewhere in between the 35 and 40. And this year, I think I counted our roster yesterday between both classes. I think we're at about 41 students, I think, to start the school year this year. So, and for any given broadcast, football, whether we're home or away, we're looking at a dozen up to maybe 15 different students that have to work together as a team to put on those productions to the things that you see on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, and it's such a complicated process, as I certainly know from that experience and from what I've done before. And it takes some time, right, to get folks really fully acclimated. What's that like? How do you kind of handle that from, the facilitator standpoint?
So from a facilitator standpoint, we have so many different facets of what we're doing. So the first thing we're going to do is get in, welcome them. This is kind of our workload, but just introductory things like get settled into Google Classroom. And then this is where the schedule is going to be. We need to get people to sign up. What does that look like? Several kids are playing sports, but on the other side of that, we have to get the games covered. So getting them in, and then we have a group of students, and some are rusty. We haven't done it for a long time, but just, what's a camera? How does a camera work? What are the settings on that? And before you know how to operate a camera, you got to know how to set it up. And sometimes, like what you talked about, there's some complications to that. So, we're getting our signals onto the internet. What does that look like? And what does that mean? So trying to teach, but also do at the same time. And it's not just the video part of that. We have people doing replay. We have people, there's several different functions there. And then of course, we throw in some live talent things as well, between volleyball and soccer and football, and trying to bring that all together. So we've got a job to do, but we also are having to teach at the same time. And it's real chaotic at the beginning of the year. But first things first, we're going to start with, these are the cameras and this is how they go together, and please take care of them.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, that's just a lot to cover. And you said, you're going to start kind of, the orientation, if you will. And then like a week later, you start the broadcast.
Correct. So, volleyball they all start about the same time. We talk a lot about football and they're an important part of what we do. And, but soccer as well. And those fall sports, the home matches, the home games, and they're a little bit different setup. The action of a volleyball game is a little bit different from football. We have a little bit more time. So what do we do in between time? What's the producer have to think through? But same way with soccer, that's pretty continuous. Sometimes there's a whole lot of action and sometimes it doesn't seem that way. So trying to figure out the difference. And then you talk from a camera standpoint, like being able to anticipate where the ball is going in football, that's sometimes could be challenging, or in soccer or in volleyball, the ball is moving a lot quicker. So just trying to navigate those and then teach those to some students. And in a lot of cases, they've never touched a camera.
Yeah. So, just kind of figuring that out with all of them as well. So, yeah, with football, sounds like we're looking at doing every single match. It sounds like, yeah, every single one. And then, yeah, with that, I know we were talking a little bit about your new space. Now, is that the space that you would also use last year?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So this will be year 2 of the new studio. So, we have a great space and we're just looking for ways to maximize the room we've been given, the technology that we have down there, the tools available to us, and then kind of in coordination with what maybe people would like to see. But also we compete every year in IHSA for video news. We've actually competed last year in radio news. So just figuring out, we take great trips. We went to the Big Ten Network last year and well, how can we maybe do some of that in Tommy TV? And we've got a great space, a great shell, and we're always thinking, okay, how can we improve? This is what we did last year. What can we do better, and what can we change to modify that?
What are some of the changes that, in terms of improvements to the space that you might do in the future that were kind of inspired by that trip to the Big Ten Network?
Well, the Big Ten Network, it's an incredible space, but it's LED panels 360, and then they have the mics and they, of course, the news stand that they're working from. And we've even talked about that, like what would it take to get a 360 to where you're utilizing several different areas, different spaces, but you can do that all the time. And so we're lucky enough that we have a access to door where people could come in, and we actually did that last year too. We had people would come in and set in on a broadcast, and the space that is kind of a teaching, but also a studio space. It serves several different functions. But how can we make that just a better overall experience where the kids are learning, but we can put on better productions? And then cost is a factor too. How can we get the money to do that, or what kind of tools do we have now that would really kind of raise our level of production?
In terms of getting the financing, how has that gone? Has it been kind of a struggle to get the right stakeholders involved for financing? What's that like?
So it's kind of a touchy game. We were fortunate enough coming out of COVID that just, first of all, you got to have an administration that is supportive of what we do. And it's really a team effort, and it starts with that. So just getting this off the ground, and they had some COVID funds that kind of allowed for the cameras, and then they had an empty classroom, and we just kind of and made it work. But we get some grant money every year. We had some grant money that allowed us to upgrade a couple of our cameras, they're 6 years old now, and so they don't last forever. And so we take advantage of some grants, and then we've had some donations. Several people will donate, but then people have donated to, there's some long days for a football game, and kids are at school at 8 o'clock, and sometimes they're not getting back till 1, and they're not going home in between. So we have people that will donate money to feed our students. We took on a sponsor last year for basketball, and then for baseball. So we're kind of experimenting with maybe what best practices is, and we don't have anything to model after. We've seen what some other schools are doing, but it just doesn't quite fit with what we're trying to do. So we're kind of creating the best practices on how to approach that, being mindful that we are in a school situation, but we have a product that's marketable, and that people would want to share in with that with us. And so being able to kind of blend the two, we're going at it slowly, but we just want to get it right whenever we do it. We want to promise something to an advertiser. We want to be able to follow through.
Yeah, and in terms of the amount of work that it sounds like is going to happen, I think you have a lot of opportunities to do that. With all the football broadcasts, all the basketball, and the other sports that we here at the radio stations don't even broadcast. So I certainly think the opportunities are there, and I cannot wait to see what all comes of it. I'm talking right now with Neil Hohenstein, teacher and facilitator for Tommy TV at Taylorville High School. Let's take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk plenty more. I certainly want to hear about what they're doing in terms of their news broadcast as well. See how that might be competing with us here at WTIM, your information station. We'll be right back.
Your information station, WTIM.
Find out all the great things happening in the Pana area on the WTIM Pana Morning Show, Tuesdays from 8:40 till 10. You'll hear interviews with Pana area community, nonprofit, and business leaders each week. The WTIM Pana Morning Show is brought to you by these sponsors.
Pizza Man, Noren's Hardware, Bob Riding's Pana, and Okanee Chop Shop.
Imagine a restaurant that says if steak prices go up tomorrow, we'll cover it. Or a mechanic that says, if we need another hour, that's on us. Yeah, right. Sadly, we've been trained to expect extra fees and surprise charges.
But Jansen's Heating and Air is different.
We believe the only surprise should be that refreshing feeling when the bill matches the original quote.
That's why we proudly offer upfront, straightforward pricing on repairs.
Jansen's provides a comprehensive job description and a guaranteed pricing breakdown before we do any work.
You only pay the promised price.
Not one penny more.
Even if we end up spending more to fix your AC this summer, it's on us, not you.
You won't find an airline that says fuel prices have increased, but your ticket price will stay the same.
But Jansen's Heating and Air says the price we say is the price you pay.
Call Jansen's Heating and Air, 562-5201.
JansensHeating.com.
If you're looking for music that stood the test of time, join me, Randy Miller, Sunday mornings from 6 to 8 on 96.5thechill.com. I host Steady Ground Replay, a 2-hour journey back to the roots of contemporary Christian music. From the songs that started a movement to the hits that formed our foundation, it's 2 hours of timeless encouragement. Steady Ground Replay, standing on the music that built our faith. Sunday morning, 6 to 8 on 96.5thechill.com.
Double your impact with sight and sound. Reach customers through our 6 regional radio stations, plus capture their attention with our 36 by 72-inch digital billboard right on Route 29 in Taylorville. That's nearly 11,000 drivers seeing your message every single day while they're already listening to your radio ads. Ready to maximize your reach? Call your regional radio account manager today and put your business in front of eyes and ears across Central Illinois. Regional radio is where your message gets noticed.
Hi, this is Will Perkins with Taylorville Community Credit Union. Find out about all the products and services we provide by clicking our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
At Taylorville Estates Assisted Living, life feels lighter. With helping hands always nearby and activities that bring people together, every day offers comfort and connection. From shared meals to shared moments, it's a place that feels like family. Discover the joy waiting at Taylorville Estates Assisted Living. Click their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
WTIM.
We're back on the WTIM Morning Show on your information station, and the show is sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. I'm your host, Reed Kamai, and I continue my conversation with Neil Hohenstein, the facilitator of the Tommy TV program at Taylorville High School. And we've talked about their sports broadcast they've got coming up and the transition to the start of the new school year. So you mentioned a little bit in the last segment. I know you also talked about it, I think, before we got on, that you also have done and are looking to kind of expand on your news broadcasts that you do there. You've competed at the IHSA level for that. Talk a little bit about what that's like, what those broadcasts are like.
Sure. So the news packages that are put together through IHSA, it's a competition. It's no different than going to playoffs if you're in football, basketball, any of the major sports. This just happens to be for journalism. And so there's lots of places we don't compete, but we do compete because it aligns with what we do with what they call video news and radio news. And so they give you a prompt and then you have so long to do that. So the section version of that is they give it to you ahead of time. You do all the shooting, the editing, you submit by a particular time, the due date, and then if you make it to state, again, no dissimilar, it's the same thing as sports, then you're competing at those levels at state. So, expanding what we do news wise, but not necessarily just news, just getting kids out and getting the reps in. So, and even stuff that they're interested in. So if you're on the football team, like maybe you could put a news package together. Let's talk news, and football. Same way there's some awesome clubs. That is a great thing you hear over and over. Plenty of opportunity for kids to get involved. So we have students that are involved. And of course, you think of one of the big ones, like we have lots of kids who are in FFA. All right. So let's write a story about that. You're deeply involved in that. You like doing that. Let's marry the two together and do a news package of that. So whether or not it's something that we're doing live reads in the studio or stuff that we're recording and then editing and then publishing, or maybe even a combination of two. And we've done all three, just finding, okay, what's going to be a correct timeline and how's that going to fit with the 30 different sporting events that we're going to do, and then limited time and, energies from students on what can we do that they're interested in, things that we know need done, and then try to marry those all together. So we're talking news, but it can be really a whole lot of other things.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned some examples of sports related stories, maybe ag related stories through, folks in the FFA. Have you folks maybe done stories on happenings in the school that are relevant to the students, or is it about public affairs outside of school? What's that like?
Well, we think about what's available to us, and there's so much going on in our school and in the entire district, but just even trying to narrow that down a little bit further. And we do some news things over at some of the other schools, but there's plenty going on at Taylorville High School. We have it's a great place to learn, to educate, to get together, to find your folks. And then, so mainly THS, there's, that's kind of what we're trying to focus on. There's plenty to go on just there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and it sounds like there's plenty, I would imagine. So, no, that's really cool that you do that. So it sounds like you entered last academic year into the IHSA competition.
So we've actually done it, all six, and then we'll do it again this next year. All 6 years that Tommy TV's been around. And first year we've been real fortunate. We've won state. The last 2 years we've been state runner up. So we think we're doing some things right. But again, a lot of it just is getting the gear out there, thinking through, thinking critically on what a story would be, what's good, what our best practices, and just doing it. We can talk about it. And sometimes we get stuck in that. We talk about it, and then we didn't produce anything. So, maybe trying this year to just let's produce some things. Let's produce more of them. If they're not perfect, I'm fine with not perfect, but we'll work towards that. So that's kind of what we're thinking this year.
Okay. Yeah. And working towards that, I would imagine, maybe sometime between the different sports seasons would be the best time to work on it, I would think.
Yeah. And so there is a little bit of downtime, but there's not a lot. So a little bit between fall and winter sports, basketball. And then we'll have several weeks there between,
winter and spring.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, like during spring, we'll have the Tommy Awards come up. We'll have graduation and some things that are non-sports related that we'll be broadcasting. So there's not really a downtime for Tommy TV.
Yeah. And no, that's how it works with TV for the most part, with broadcasting in general. And well, I certainly know that as well. So no, really cool that you folks do that. You mentioned the Tommy Awards, because I know that's a really, really big thing you do. Maybe even arguably the biggest thing you do outside of sports. Planning probably starts pretty early. Talk about what that's like with about 90 seconds to go.
So we start every year with a question. Should we do this? Because it's expensive to put on, and we love celebrating people in our community. So inside of the school, outside of the school. And so is this something that we need to do? We answer that question. Yes. Okay. Let's start planning. Who can we get that's one to be involved? We put committees together, and the students and the kids are doing all the work, not just Tommy TV students. We have kids from all over Taylorville High School coming in to participate in this, to put this thing on. So from going out and raising funds, funds, going out and making a sales call, like, hey, this is the value that you're going to get for your money. But staging, what are we having for dinner? Who are we hiring for dinner? How's the flow? What kind of awards are we going to have? So there's a lot of aspects, and the planning will start real quickly on the Tommy Awards. Once we answer that, is this something that we're going to do again this year?
All right. So yeah, a lot of planning there. I know Tommy TV, you folks are on YouTube. You have a Facebook as well. Do the broadcasts also go on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you can find the broadcasts through YouTube and through Facebook. And yeah, it's just incredible stuff you folks do. I've been fascinated from the moment I found out you folks were even a thing. And can't wait to see what comes out this year. I've been talking with Neil Hohenstein, facilitator for Tommy TV at Taylorville High School. Neil, thanks again.
Thank you, Reed.
Yes, and thank you for joining us here on the WTIM Morning Show on your information station. We'll be back in 10 minutes or so with another conversation, so please stay tuned.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville.
96.1 FM Taylorville.
107.5 FM Shelbyville.
107.9 FM Pena Nokomis.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Dr. Anthony Fauci back in the limelight this morning, key figure in